Lesson 14.3. How have the First Nations and Metis in Western Canada reacted to the various challenges and opportunities that exist today? We'll talk about that in detail. So stick around and let's learn something. Lesson 14.3, we're going to be taking a look at how have the First Nations and Métis in Western Canada reacted to the challenges and opportunities of Canada today, of Canada after the 1960s. We are going to be talking, like I said, about the First Nations, about our Métis here in Western Canada. You can see here we have the various communities in which they live, the population of our First Nations, of our Métis, and of our Inuit was declining over the years. Prior to the 1920s, the populations of those three groups were in decline because of war, because of disease, because of poverty. But in the 1920s, we begin to see an increase in their population. There is an First Nation baby boom that takes place. And right now, today, First Nations youth are currently Canada's fastest growing population group. And that is going to give them and provide them with the ability to strengthen their culture. They will be able to learn more about their culture, more about their history, more about their backgrounds, more about their contributions to Canada. They will also be given an opportunity, because they are one of Canada's fastest growing population groups, the ability to learn and keep and maintain their language. But at the same time, this is going to present some challenges for our First Nations Métis here on the in the provinces of Western Canada. More schools are going to be needed. More housing is going to be needed to support this growing population. With a growing population, you're going to need better access to health care, and we need to ensure that there are going to be jobs available to these young people when they come of age to enter into the workforce. So what once was on the decline is now increasing and rising in population and adding to our diverse identity of Canada. And one of the aspects of this diverse society is the ability for our First Nations to have self-government, because until the 1950s, First Nations communities were controlled by our central government, the federal government, and the federal government had all the say in how these communities were to be run. The First Nations, however, are a diverse and unique group within Canadian society, so they wanted to be able to make their own decisions. They wanted self-government. In 1951, First Nations begin lobbying the government for this right of self-government. And years later, by the end of the 1960s, many of our First Nation communities have their own police force and they have access to their own social services. And this increases as time goes on, and the Assembly of First Nations is finally founded in the 1980s. So our First Nations, Métis, and Inuit are making great progress and adding to the diversity of Canada even today. All right, I want you to head over to your notebooks and complete the questions for this part of the chapter.